So here we go then, everybody. Welcome to the final Kings of Anglia Track the Gals Talk podcast of the 2022-23 season. Of course, the podcast is proudly sponsored by John Fowler's Solicitors. Big up Mark Kennedy as ever for his support. What a season it's been. A season ups and downs, a roller coaster of emotions. I'm joined as ever by my co-host and Town Women skipper, Blue Wilson, as we're going to review the season that was. Blue, another season in the bag in Tier 3. It didn't end the way we wanted it to, but wow. How many games is it? 24 games? No, 24 games? It's 24 games.
22?
22, sorry. Yeah, cup games. Anyway, how are you? Yeah. I'll try to think of maths really on the spot there. Let's just move on. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, Ross. Obviously haven't been into training, but still doing my gym stuff, an off-season plan. But outside of football, got some exams coming up, some accountancy exams. So yeah, a little bit stressed at the minute, but it'll all be over next week. And then I've only got a few left. So nearing the end. I mean, I've still got a year to go, but nearing the end, the majority is done. But other than that, all is good. How are you doing?
I'm very well, yeah. I'm definitely happy that I haven't got to do what you've got to do with those exams. They sound very stressful and very hard. So keep up the good work, Blue. But as you said, when they're over, and you don't have to worry about study. You can just chill and enjoy your off season, and of course doing your rehab and everything like that. But yeah, Blue, it's been another season in the bag recording the podcast because this is the second year in a row. You came on board season before, midway through, and we keep going strong. And we've gone through a whole season, as I said, 22 league games. Get the facts right, Ross. And we're going to go through each month. But let's start, Blue, with pre-season, going into the season, early thoughts, elephant in the room. Paige Peake left. She went to Southampton. That was a big departure. But we moved on. The train kept going. She came off, but we kept going. And it was a pretty good pre-season in terms of games. We beat Wolves, who are a good team in the other division in Tier 3. What was your feelings like going into that? Because you're, of course, up in your rehab with your injury. What's your memories back then?
Yeah, so obviously the Paige Peake departure was a little bit of a shock to most people, to be honest, even sort of inside the camp. But I think the intention was always like, okay, yes, she was a great player for us, but actually let's power on without her. Wish her all the best, but we need to focus on us now. We didn't really sort of recruit. We relied on the youngsters coming through, which paid off, to be fair. Megan's had a fantastic season, so she was sort of the replacement, and then obviously Boz moving to a different position as well. So we kind of had a makeshift, and that transition definitely did happen in pre-season. I remember the first game against Wimbledon. The men played before, and then we played, and that was sort of the first sighting of this almost new formation and new position for the back line. And at that point, I think we were all a little bit concerned if you watch that game. But we weren't concerned as in, oh, the whole season's going to be like this. It was always going to be difficult to adjust and transition. So we had, I think who did we play? Cambridge United, Charlton, and then Wolves. So we had a nice sort of range of different level of opposition. Charlton was a good test for sure, and then obviously the Wolves game, which I think we played pretty well in, and obviously beat them. So spirits were quite high going into the season. We felt ready, especially after the back of that Wolves win. And yeah, we felt like we were going to hit the ground running, but obviously, as we'll go on to, we didn't.
Yeah, we didn't. Of course, we knew the fixtures. We knew we were going to open the season at home to Portsmouth. Always nice to have a home opener. And of course, we had that momentum, didn't we, of the Lionesses winning the Euros at Wembley. And that was an unbelievable success. The record crowds, seeing the final. And we would hope that momentum was going to go on with the crowds for all the women's leagues. And that did help a little bit. But then also there was that little few week periods, weren't it, when the season did start. It was pre-season games, but there was that few weeks of like that where the dust sort of settled. But we had the first game against Portsmouth, Blue, and Yeah, it didn't go to plan. Of course, there's injuries in this game. Corey Robertson got injured. Zoe Barrett got injured in the first half. It was a 3-0 home defeat. I think I was looking forward to this game. You know, the opener of the game against Portsmouth, the team who beat us on the final day of the season before. So there's a chance to get revenge, but just wasn't the day, was it?
I definitely think that was in the mind, like, okay, these guys beat us the last game of the last season. So, but I was shocked. I remember coming away from that game shocked because maybe our mindset wasn't quite right, or I still don't know what quite happened, or whether it's just Portsmouth being our bogey team. We just hate playing Portsmouth for some reason. But that's not a feeling within the camp. But it just the results seem to turn out that way. But yeah, it was passive. We looked like we hadn't woken up yet, which was a change because actually against Wolves we looked pretty on it. So I don't know what I think perhaps the injuries didn't help. I remember saying that at the time that the breakup to have two sort of biggish or what looked like biggish injuries to happen in the first half, I think it was, or early on in the game, sort of breaks up the pattern. You have to put replacements in, and they're not quite prepped because they're not expected to go on in the first half or whatever. But yeah, not a good start. 3-0 loss at home, not ideal.
No, for any team, it's not good to start off with a defeat, and definitely at home and losing 3-0. And, yeah, as you mentioned, there was a lot of youngsters coming through. I think that was the Wimbledon game. I think I can't know the exact figure. Sorry, I ain't got the stats for me, ladies and gentlemen. I think it was 6 or 7 players made their debut playing. That was a good, little stat because it's like, wow, we've always known for producing players, and it was great to see that. And yeah, we had a very young bench for this game, and some players come on. I think Nia Evans came on really early, which for her was great to come on, but then to lose in that manner wasn't great. And then the following game, we were like, okay, let's bounce back, let's get a win. We took the lead against Gillingham. Gillingham was next up, another home game, which is always good. Yeah, Anna Gray, of course, giving us the lead. But then Gillingham came back and they won the game in the end 2-1. Yeah, look back at that game, another disappointing defeat.
Yeah, another one. So you're almost like, what is happening here? And I think almost starting the season well, perhaps is sort of regarded as like the most important thing, because that's how you set yourself and how you sort of see the season folding out. But yeah, perhaps we went 1-0 up and then became too comfortable. It was a good goal by Anna. She went around the keeper. But I think we had 6 changes in total. So again, that element of injuries hampering us and hindering us. And ultimately, we couldn't find our flow. And that hurt us. But Gillingham have always been a tough team. They battle really hard. They're a classic. They're almost a typical tier 3 team. Like, I really see Gillingham, like, they're not going to go up or down. They just sort of battle. But yeah, definitely a wake up and a shock to lose our first 2 games. And at that point, I think everyone sort of, after the game, reflected and was like, okay, we need to sort ourselves out here. I'm not sure quite what it is, but whatever it is, we need to sharpen up, whether that's in training or the mindset going into the game. It's something's not clicking. But, it did smoothen out, but not an ideal start to the season for sure. And next season, I think that'll be a key focus, not to start like that again.
Yeah, because of course we'll go on to maybe that's one of the main reasons why we didn't just, even though we finished basically second and on goal difference, we could have won the title. But we'll go on to it at the end of the month, and the last game of the season very shortly. But yeah, it was not the start we wanted, and it was a weird position to be in as well, Blue, because this team hasn't lost many games. Joe, as a manager, hasn't lost many games, and I think there was a few maybe calls and chat about, maybe this team isn't as good as we think it is. I had some honest opinions on this podcast about, maybe we're not playing the right players in positions, or maybe we should have strengthened. And maybe looking back, Joe probably would have gone, maybe I should have maybe brought in one or 2 other players. But in the end, the young players coming through, we'll get on to Megan shortly. But yeah, with the lack of options on the bench at that game, I think we only had maybe, because we had those injuries. Once again, you can't help having Corey getting injured, Zoe getting injured so early on. Thankfully, those injuries weren't as serious because I think they all both had to go to hospital, and you were like thinking, oh no. And as a player yourself, Blue, with your injury, you're probably thinking, oh, hopefully it's nothing too serious, and thankfully it wasn't.
Yeah, for sure. But it's scary, especially that early on in the season, because you're like, well, that can impact so many games, and it can almost sort of put your season. Say if Kyra was to get injured for longer, it could have really sort of hindered how her flow, because it's so important to get game time, especially for midfielders and defenders. I think to get game time in the bank at the start of the season consistently to build yourself, both physically and mentally, I think. So we almost got lucky in a sense that they weren't longer term, even though they still had a period on the sidelines, and it wasn't enjoyable. I remember them being in the gym, but yeah, like you said, it was a different start. We weren't expecting that, and we definitely questioned, actually, are we the team that we think we are? For sure. And perhaps that fueled the results that followed.
Yeah, the next up, under lights. We don't get many midweek games, but Billericay returns to this division. They got promoted, and we've had our battles with them in the past in league games, cup games, and down in Essex, we got the win that we needed, a clean sheet. It was a scrappy first half, but second half, Tash come up with the winner. And I think it was me or someone who said on the previous awards pod that was maybe the moment of the season, or a big moment in the season, because it was a massive 3 points, a good goal, and just the roar of the bench and just everybody of having that relief. We got it over the line. We got the win.
Yeah, I don't think I was actually at that game. I think that coincided with my surgery, potentially. I think it did. But I remember following on Twitter anyway, as I do if I miss a game, always. But yeah, just looking at the notes, Holly Turner even played in that game. Obviously, She then joined us later in the season, but it sounded like the Billericay keeper had a great game. And Billericay, again, one of those who we've always had battles with. They're always a tough team. They've got experienced players and players who know how to manage a game and how to grind out results. So you never really know what you're gonna what walls you're gonna have to break down. But yeah, no, it was a good goal as well. Nice sort of work into the box, and then Tash finish.
Yeah, another celebration. It was a bundle
Yes.
of players, because I think they're just that relief. Like, we got the goal and it was perfect, and of course we were able to see it out. And fair play to Billericay, though. They finished 6th in the end. So they had a good solid first season back in this division. So fair play to Billericay. But that was a good 3 points to end August. Going into September, only 2 games in September, Blue. Once again, this season's been stop-start because of just fixtures getting rearranged, postponed for different reasons, international call-ups. Of course, with once again another season of congratulations to all the players who have been called up. Definitely Megan, who made her senior debut for Scotland, or no, under-19s debut for Scotland. Senior debut. I'm going too far. I'm good. It's going to happen, though. I'm sure
Next
it's going to
season,
happen. Next season, definitely, yeah. And talking about Megan, the game against Bridgewater, that was her first start. So she made a debut against Gillingham, coming off the bench, but this was her first start against Bridgewater, and it was a 1-0 win. So a clean sheet for Megan, Anna getting the goal. And back at the AGL Arena, after 2 defeats, we go on to make it back-to-back wins, and a first win in front of a home crowd, and just a solid win against a very big Bridgewater side.
Yeah, the team of the Giants, that's what I'm known as. Although it was an own goal that sort of won it for us, I think, again, it was important to get us back on track and say, okay, yes, we can win at home. We're not the team that just lost our opening 2 results. And another gritty one, another really gritty one that you probably won't want to watch back. But all in all, it's 3 points, and those types of games are so important in sort of establishing a title challenge, and ones that perhaps we need to be a bit more clinical with on goals. Not sure. It's difficult because when you're that early on in the season, you're not thinking about goal difference, or you're not even thinking that the league will come down to goal difference. You're thinking about, we've just lost the first 2 games of the season. Have we even got a title challenge anymore? That's what you're thinking. But I think that pressure, we managed it well. And yeah, home win. Lovely.
Yeah, this stage, because it's 4 games in, 2 defeats, 2 wins. On balance, isn't too bad, but you also think, oh, this league is
in
cruel.
This league, it's so tight. No margin for error at all.
But thankfully, we got that win and clean sheets. And let's quickly then talk about Megan. We don't have to quickly talk about Megan because she has been fantastic. Player of the year, supporters player of the year, just unbelievable. And this was her first start against Bridgewater. I think she's 17, so she has been unbelievable. I think even making a podcast debut, she had a very impressive appearance as well. And this is still, I think, when she came on, maybe at this time actually, where she was still very fresh-faced player coming through. Playing alongside some players who have played for a long time. But yeah, what's your memories of her making her first sort of a few appearances?
She's very mature. She's probably one of the most mature in the group. But given I think she's just turned 18, so she's now 18. But nothing really sort of seems to phase her, whether it's little niggles that she's feeling. Definitely towards the end of the season, as you do, you pick up niggles and you play through them because you've only got a certain amount of the season left, and you just get on with it. And everyone's tired, but she's one of those who's just just focused on the game. Absolutely loves it. And it's really good to have someone like that. And you can see it. You can see it in the way that she plays, and even her communication to whether it's the midfielders or just anyone. She's quite bold, and especially for her age, I think she's been a real surprise. I wouldn't expect a 17-year-old to come into this team when actually Liv it's likely because Liv's availability hasn't been where she sort of wanted it because of her work, and the fact that Megan's come in, stepped in, and almost seamlessly, really, just commanded it. So I've been really impressed, and obviously her family support doesn't go unnoticed as well. They are big fans, so shout out to them.
Yeah, big shout out to both her mum and dad and just everyone involved because they've been fantastic as part of the crowd and the fans, and dad being one of the drummers. So big shout out to them. And just big shout out to Megan because she's been fantastic. She just as we said, just one goal. What would have been
one goal?
So
that's
many chances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Ross, she said, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna." She said it to me so many times. She's like, "Yeah, the last game against Oxford, that game." I'm like, Megan, when is it going to happen? I mean, I can't really push her, to be fair. But currently, I do have more goals than her for Ipswich Town. So,
Do you know what? I'm going to call it now. She's going to just have the ball. Sarah's going to roll it to her, and she's just going to go and take everyone on and then scores and just score an absolute weldy or something like that. So there we go. So Megan, big challenge for you, but make that happen.
I'm gonna go. Someone's headed the ball at the keeper. The keeper saved it. She's gonna sort of volley it in off her shin from a corner. That's the goal I'm gonna go for.
Yeah, I think that's more realistic. But you never know. You never know because with your goal against Crawley,
Are you saying that's out of character, Ross? I think that's well in character. It's classic Blue Wilson behaviour. That.
Yeah. Oh, what a goal that was. But no, once again, Megan, well done for a great season and many more to come, I'm sure, from her. Final game in September was a cup game against QPR. We won 7-0. So job done. But one player who made their debut and who made a statement this year in the league was, of course, Freya Godfrey. Of course, was signing from Arsenal, and she was part of this game. She got a few assists. We both got it wrong on the quiz when we got asked by Kieran who got the assists, and we're like, who got the assist? And we forgot Freya made a debut in that game, and she did. And she's been on, of course, she went on to do really well, and she actually went on to score on her home debut in October, Blue, against Crawley Wasps, which we won 3-0. Bonnie also scored after a long time without scoring. Tash also scored in that game. But October starting with a 3-0 win.
Yeah, no, it was good. I think did Bonnie get? No, maybe did Bonnie get 2 in that game?
No, that was NK Dons later in the month, but yeah, but
Oh,
she
okay.
she stuck.
She's Bonnie's done well this season for goals, by the way.
Yes,
Been a few free kicks, penalties. They all count.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I clearly don't remember much about this game at all. But
yeah. No,
sounds like we got the job done at home. 3-0, we'll take it. But yeah, Crawley have been really poor this year, so you'd
yeah, they went
expect that.
down, didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah, you'd expect maybe more. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because they're of course just like Bridgewater, they went down. Crawley 1 win all season, 4 draws, 17 defeats. So yeah, not a good season for them. And yeah, just a solid 3-0 win. Another clean sheet, 3 clean sheets in a row there. Yeah, and Bonnie starting. She had only scored 1 goal prior to that goal, which was the opening game of the season against Hounslow. So she hadn't scored for a very long time, and finally she goes and scores. And of course, she goes and scores 2 more this month. But before that, we have Oxford away, and of course, this is always the big battle, the title decider. Even early in October, I like thinking this is a big game, and they go, of course, on to score the opener. But then Anna Gray goes and equalises, and the game does end 1-1. This makes it 5 games unbeaten. But yeah, this is a big result in terms of coming from behind.
Yeah, you'd 100% take a draw at Oxford.
They got a good record as well, haven't they?
Yeah. I mean, you'd take a draw away from home for sure because I don't actually know what the home record is, but it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Is it still ongoing? It must be still be
I think
ongoing.
so. Bear with me. Keep talking. I'll have a chat. I think they didn't lose. They must. They
I
lost
don't
3
think they
games
did
this
lose. They lost against Watford away, didn't they? And then obviously
season.
lost against us. But I remember the game. I remember feeling really nervous watching, and because even at that stage, when actually at that stage in the season, we're sort of out of it because we've lost those 2 games at the start of the season. But you could sense that it was going to come. It was going to be us, Oxford, and Watford. Although Portsmouth were doing well, I don't know what it was. I just never really saw them as sort of real title challengers, even though they'd beat us. Maybe it's a bit of saltiness from my part.
Yeah.
But yeah, Oxford. I think the game was pretty even. To be fair, I think we were quite happy with the draw. And again, it's not a loss, and we're building for those sort of few games that remain before Christmas.
Yeah, and then the game up next was a game that Lily got called off because of the weather, where the goalie was like getting some towels and putting it in the goal mouth.
Oh my goodness, I remember that. Yeah, God, the comedy of Tier 3 football sometimes.
Yeah, which is just I just remember turning up and just going like, yeah, the pitch didn't look great. And of course we'll go on to something later on, of course. But yeah, we won the game. But thankfully, the game did play, and we won the game 5-1. Bonnie with a brace, so 3 goals in 3 games. The first goal was a dead ball free kick, Blue. So she's bringing up everything. She's scoring, I think, a pen, scoring now a free kick, and she did it again later in the season. But yeah, Bonnie is finding her shooting boots.
The girls always laugh because the celebration is like a fist pump, and it's every time. Yeah. It's so funny. It's just the most classic Bonnie thing you can think of. But yeah, fair play to her. 2 goals. MK Dons. I mean, you go into that game expecting to win, but I think 5 goals past them is pretty good, pretty clinical. So again, you missed out on the clean sheet, but a good win, a good solid win. To once again try and forget the start. But yeah, we built quite a nice run there, which do we count as being lost in the next one? Not sure.
Yeah, and to be fair, MK they finished 5th in the end as well, so they had a really good season, an improvement from the season before. In that game as well,
of course they finished 5th. I'm saying that you expect to win the game, but I mean 5th. It's
maybe
decent,
this time of the season, maybe because it's October, and I said that they didn't have a good season previously, so they were still probably building and still wanting to improve. And I think probably at this stage of the season as well, I don't know what their results were, but yeah, you guarantee we're at home as well. We've got that great run. We've got to
Yeah.
win.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think we got the 5 goals, and that was a nice way as well for us because we hadn't really scored many goals prior to that. Because we said we got the 1-0 wins. Of course, we scored 3 against Crawley, but we've only scored a few. But score 5 at home, which is great. And then November comes, Blue. 4 games in total. Starting off with a cup exit, which you're probably like, we're not that fussed about, but we were there and it was rubbish. Of course, a 2-0 defeat against Hashtag, who will be playing next season. So you never, at the end of the day, they're actually a good team because they got promoted and they'll be playing Tier 3 football. But yeah, it wasn't a good game in Essex, was it?
No, I was thinking about this. I think it's possibly the worst Ipswich Town Women game I've been to. Oh, it's just one of those which you do not want to ever think about again. Just horrendous. I don't know what it is about the Faunal Cup. We just don't seem to like it at all. Whether that'll change next season, I'm not sure. Whether that's a goal to win it next season, not sure. But yeah, we just don't seem to like it. It doesn't really have much. Although it's a cup and it's potential to win some silverware, it just hasn't got much sort of presence. I don't think the focus is the league and everything comes before that. But yeah, not ideal. I think that was everyone came away from that like, wow, that wasn't good.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. And yeah, I think we were going into the season thinking, this is a competition we'd like to try to win because when you're in cup games, you're like, yeah, let's try to win it. And we started off, we've already mentioned it, that 7-0 win against QPR. So we're like, oh, great start. Then we get Hashtag. We thought, okay, another team in the division below. And no, we lose 2-0. And I think actually Holly played in this game as well, I think, if I remember. Oh, no, was it Brooke? Brooke Hearn? I think Brooke played, sorry, in this game.
Yeah. But a few of our ex-players played for Hashtag.
Yeah.
But I'll be interested to see what their sort of provision is. Will they recruit? Will they expand a little bit coming into Tier 3? Because they're a team which is definitely sort of developing, given their sort of backing from, I've forgotten his name, but YouTube Spencer. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see them. I can see them finishing quite high up for sure. I think they'll do well. And another tricky team to come into our division for sure.
Yeah, I know they've got ambition because their men's team have got promoted, so it was a double promotion for their side. So yeah, good though, Blue. They are in Essex, so it's a nice, nice short journey for us. So thankfully they've gone up. It's not like another long journey, so that's good. Then we entered the FA Cup once again. It started the competition we love. It was Luton Town away at a very interesting ground. A 7-0 win. But the main moment in this game, of course, was Sophie Pescott making a return after 410 days. What a moment. I think it took us maybe 2-3 minutes or whatever it was to get an assist. But as an ACL group leader, sorry to say that, it was a great moment to see Pescott make her return. Even though it was on a dodgy pitch, like, ooh, we sure? But she came back and it was great.
Yeah, the pitch was like on an incline. If you're watching this, the pitch is on an incline like this. So you're literally running up a hill. there was a few games like that actually, but yeah, that was the highlight for sure. It didn't really sort of matter the scoreline. It was just the fact that Pescott was back, and she had that moment. I think her parents were there, and it was just a nice day. I was really happy for her, and it proves that it could be done. So yeah, really. So I was, very happy for Pescott that day. I know it meant a lot to her, and I think she got quite emotional, which is fair enough. It's fair enough. A lot of work goes into getting yourself into a position where you might be able to go on the pitch, and she managed to do that. So yeah, big shout out to Pescott.
Yeah, and she's gone on to do really well, since her return. She played, of course, in the next game against Plymouth, the long journey to Plymouth, which was another 5-0 win at home park. I think 2,122 people were in attendance, so a good crowd. And yeah, another big win against Plymouth. As we said before, it's a long journey, and to come home not winning or whatever, it must be horrible. But thankfully, we've come home twice and won 5-0, and that was another solid win. And in 2 games, we scored 12 goals. So we're scoring the goals, Blue.
Yeah, we had a good period of scoring goals, didn't we? After that Hashtag loss, for sure. But yeah, if you're ever thinking about going to Plymouth to come and watch us play, we can guarantee you goals. I know it's a long trip, but we can guarantee you goals. I do wonder whether at some point Plymouth are just going to go, no, we're not playing you at home park anymore.
Yeah.
We'll put you on some dodgy pitch and then we'll see how you do. I wouldn't blame them for that because it can't be nice being beaten 5-0. But yeah, it's always an enjoyable trip once you're there. The journey's a long one, but yeah, a decent win. And again, another clean sheet.
Yeah, another clean sheet. Yeah, can't, of course, Sarah Control, the keeper, another Golden Glove season as well for her. But yeah, Plymouth just about, I won't say just about stayed up. I think they comfortably stayed up in the end. I think 5 points. So Plymouth trip is on again next season. So if you fancy it, as Blue said, get ready for goals. But as you said, it may not be at home park. They may make that decision. 3 years in a row. Do we really want to? Yeah. But,
can you imagine 3 years in a row, 5-0? That's got to be the goal, surely.
Yeah, that's got to be. And of course, the men Plymouth team will be playing the men's town team as well because they both got promoted to the championship. So double header maybe on the cards again, hopefully. Although last season it wasn't because of the Sky ruining it and stuff, so I had to make 2 trips to Plymouth. But I'll shut up about that now because I think people get annoyed me talking about that. But anyway, luckily the men had Exeter, so it was a shorter journey in the end. Then the FA Cup journey continued. Blue, we had London Seawood, so a team below basically tier 4, a 3-0 home win, and Lucy O'Brien got a double, so it was good to see her on the score sheet.
Yeah, to be fair to her, she's had a decent season. She's definitely built on the season before. I think perhaps the season coming up, she's been a key play for us, and she has moments of magic, which is great. But I think one of her goals will be to be more consistent, and I suppose it's hard for players like that, creative players, to have that consistency because you've got to be constantly coming up with the goods and constantly being clinical and specific in those passes, which me as a sort of defensive midfielder, it's less so. It's likely easier to be consistent. So it's hard for people like her and Brazier and Pescott and all those front players. But yeah, no, it's good to see her on the score sheet. I can't remember much about that game, I'm not gonna lie, but it's a win in the FA Cup.
Yeah, and of course we're waiting to see who we'll be having in the next round, and we get a new name, Portishead. And that's a bit of a journey for them. And sadly, this game was behind closed doors because of Felixstowe's pitch. And of course, I think we just needed to get it done and played. So I do feel sorry for Portishead. They had to make that journey and they couldn't play in front of a crowd, but they got an opportunity to go to our training ground and stuff like that. It was a 7-0 win. So another job done for the girls, just getting through to the next round of the FA Cup. But yeah, fair play to Portishead. I had some good chats with some of their coaching staff and just people who were part of their setup, and they're just a nice bunch. Yeah,
it's a shame really because we kind of blown them away. I think they're tier 5 from memory.
Yeah, I think so.
So it was always going to be a challenge for them. I remember them sitting back and always trying to get us on the counter, but we had so much possession, it was ridiculous. And especially we were playing on Astro at Playford. Yeah. And there's no funny bounce on that Astro. We know where it's going to bounce, and it just meant we could zip the ball about and made it quite an easy day, really.
Yeah, I'm just going to quickly get the goal scorers in this game because Maddie Bigg scored, Rosero scored, Bonnie scored, another goal for her. Laffy scored, Anno scored, an own goal. So loads of goal scorers there. But yeah, another FA Cup win, and we're waiting, of course, who we're going to get in the next draw. And of course, I think this was the round where we knew championship teams were going to come in, and we got Lewis, which we'll go on to shortly, Blue, because we have one more game to end December going into the Christmas break, and of course that trip to Cheltenham, a 2-0 win. Bloody cold afternoon. That was bloody cold. Probably the coldest I've ever been. I'm sure yourself and everyone else involved. I think even Bonnie said, and other players have said, like, that was probably the coldest I've ever played football. I think the story was at half time they were using hairdryers to dry their hair because it was raining. It was freezing cold, but we got the job done against the Cheltenham side, who, fair play to them, they gave us a game.
Yeah, they were really tough. Really tough. I remember that game being horrible because you're sitting there in horrible weather, literally everyone's freezing. You can see even on the pitch when the ball's gone out of play. Normally you don't really sense the weather too much, but it was one of those. It was so cold, windy, and wet that you could see players were cold, and they noticed that they were cold, which you don't normally have. So yeah, I was kind of glad I wasn't playing that one because it didn't look fun at all. But yeah, Cheltenham put up a really good fight, 2-0. I almost see that game as more of a 1-0. It was that sort of tight and really sort of fine margins again.
And Boz, I think, Boz scored a direct corner, didn't she? I think at first Kieran gave an own goal, but then it was like, actually,
Yes, that was the whole debate. So yeah, it wasn't even a clean goal. Which Boz won't like, but yeah, it takes skill to score from a corner directly, doesn't it? Whether you mean it or not.
Yeah, very much so. But a good way to sort of end the year with a win, against Cheltenham to go into the Christmas break. And then January, we knew we had Pompey away. Once again, we wanted to get that revenge. And they once again, they did the double on us.
They did. We just cannot win. We just cannot win against Portsmouth. I don't know what it is. But yeah, I mean they're a good team. They've got good players. I think one of their winger, Sophie Quirk. I do often get people saying that we look similar. So it's me, Summer, and Sophie Quirk. We all look similar because we've got sort of gingerish, curly hair. But yeah, she's a great player, and they've got a strong team, really strong team, and a good manager. So they're always a threat, but we just cannot seem to get results. I don't know what it is. But hopefully next season will be a reset, and we can put that sort of bogey team name to bed. I think that's a key aim for me, actually. One of the key aims next season, which I'm sure we'll get on to, is to beat Portsmouth.
Yes, because we're able to, there's a few, like you think Gillingham last year was a bit of a bogey team as well because that draw, and some, but yeah, there's some other teams like that who we like, even Billericay, to an extent, a team we needed to sort of get a win over, and thankfully we did. Then up next was another cold actually afternoon against London Bees. This was a tough battle, a 2-1 win. Sophie Pescott face goal. It was a tough battle.
I've got the exact same notes. I put face goal. I've actually put sin bin and face goal. So what an afternoon for Pescott. So yeah, we warmed up on a little 5-a-side pitch because there was some boys playing on the pitch just before us. But no, that was a tough game. And I remember we went 2-1 up, and then London Bees had a chance they should have scored. Like you expect them to score, so we got really lucky there. But somehow we've come out with the 3 points, and obviously became important because say we'd drawn that game and they'd scored that last minute chance, where we wouldn't have had perhaps how close we got to winning the title. But yeah, hindsight's a great thing, isn't it?
Very much so. And of course, we'd come from behind because they took the lead in this game, and then of course Tash got the equaliser, and then Pescott got the winner in the end by a face, which is good. Goal of the season contender. Definitely. I hope that was part of the goal of the season contenders. Because it was her first goal with her return. Probably not the goal she wanted to score on her return, but after making her return, of course. But a goal is a goal. Then we had the FA Cup game against Lewis. Of course, an established Championship side. Once again, just one chance and a goal for Lewis. A valiant performance from us. I've took that from the match report, by the way. I wanted to find a word, and I just went, Kieran's good with words, and he's put a valiant performance. So,
there we go. I like it.
Yeah, I like it too. That's why I used it,
Yeah, it describes it well, to be fair. I think we've spoken about it before. One of the quiz questions was craft. Never forget that now, craft. And it was something like the first shot on target for them, and it's one of those where they've been in the Championship because they're clinical and they don't concede goals. So fair play. But we didn't embarrass ourselves at all, and actually sort of probably proved that we can reach that level if needed to do so. But yeah, they went on. to play Cardiff City, I believe, and they won that game, and then they went on to play United at home. So that could have been us. We could have had United at the AGL. How nice that would have been. Oh.
I always say this because I don't know how the draw is seeded or whatever. Like you go, yeah, that could be the route we go down, but also is it actually your name or your position? I don't know how it's seeded because that would be if that was the route, then that'd been amazing. But I always feel no, actually, it may not happen because we
I
may.
know, but
you look at it and go, oh, that could have been us if we could have won that. We beat Cardiff.
We could have had Toon and Russo at the AGL.
That would have been good. But no, it wasn't to be. So yeah, January done. Then we go into February and Watford. We finally actually played Watford because we hadn't played them all season because I think one of them, I don't know why, it just didn't fall. No, we had played Watford.
We hadn't played Watford, This is the first time we played Watford. It must have got rescheduled. For sure.
Yeah, must have done, because we had Watford twice in February. I've just got my notes up now, ladies and gentlemen. I know what I'm doing. But yeah, this game, we took the lead, of course. Lucy O'Brien with the goal. And then it happened, the late equaliser, when I just think, just keep the ball in the corner. But no. And they get the equaliser. And this was probably you say this would be the pivotal point of the season. Of course, we were going to have Joe on the podcast, but we couldn't get our schedules to line up. So we don't know about the Chinese fisherman, but you know a little bit, don't you? Our farmer is there.
Yeah, I feel like I can't tell it because I will butcher it. So next time Joe's on the pod, I'll get him to tell it because I'd feel immense guilt if I were to tell it and not do it justice.
Okay.
But yeah, the Chinese farmer did happen before and after that game. But you look at that and you think, God, if that equaliser doesn't go in, we're in the playoff game. That's the reality. But then if that equaliser doesn't go in, do we go on to have the fantastic run that we did? Not sure. And I'm not sure I want to think about it too much more because it is. It's that close of a margin. But O'Brien's goal was sort of a poacher's finish. I remember it bobbling out top of the box and she just slots it. But yeah, when that equaliser went in, I was just like, no, please no. But I mean, 1-1 against Watford, it's not a horrendous result. It's just the way it happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and of course, we're able to revenge that. Of course, we beat Bridgewater 2-0. Let's just move on from that. Good 3 points, clean sheet. Yeah, Bridgewater, they went down, so we don't have to play them anymore. Then at home against Watford, of course, this was a game we knew was huge, and it was a huge win. Sarah Zera Carrera scoring the goal, and this was just, here we are, big statement win.
At this point, we knew that we had to win every game left. And this one was a really big one, and we knew that afterwards Billericay were coming up, so that's also going to be a tough. So we were going through a tough period of we need to grind some results out here. But yeah, so it's a big win. It's a really big win, especially to put those doubts. And when you're 1-0 up and you're thinking, okay, last time we did this 3 weeks ago or whatever, we bottled it. I'd had that sort of mind game as well, but to win that game was a big relief, and it almost was like, yeah, you know what, we are the better team. But that obviously didn't turn out to be at the end of the season. But it was a really big win at the time, and it almost encouraged us and was like, this is possible still. This really is possible. Let's just keep winning and see where we end up.
Yeah, because after that draw against Watford, we went on to win every single game after that, which is just incredible for any team to go on that sort of run. And all those clean sheets we got as well, which was just incredible. We had 5 games in March, Blue, 5 wins, of course, starting off with that 1-0 win against Billericay. And that was a good result as well. Freya scoring from the penalty spot. Game under the lights at the AJ Arena. We only get one of those a season, pretty much. And that was just another good, solid win. Yeah,
for sure. I love a game under the lights. Absolutely love it, especially at the AGL. Always a good atmosphere. It's just slightly different. but another big one, another clean sheet. So that's the third clean sheet in a row. I think we go on to have 5 in a row before conceding to Crawley. But yeah, building momentum nicely, and we carry it through. But a difficult one, and we knew that it was going to be a difficult one, especially the proximity of the games.
And of course, I think this was Holly Turner's debut.
Yes.
No. I think she made
I
a
think
debut
it
against
was.
Watford, didn't she? No, Watford. I think. No,
Yeah, maybe it was.
Yeah. We know what to talk about, guys. We know what to talk about. Yeah. I think she came on against Watford, and then this was like, Holly Turner making a return against her former club Billericay, and coming on to maybe score the winner. That's the headline you wanted, but thankfully we got the goal and we won the game 1-0, and that was done. Next up was Plymouth, and this was a 3-game week, Blue. We just had Watford, Billericay midweek, and now Plymouth. We won 3-0. Something happened in this game. I can't remember what it was.
I've got no notes on this one, Ross. So
I don't know. Someone was making their return apparently. It was you, Blue. Yes, that was you. What a moment that was. Which of course spoke about it on the pods. You've reflected on it so many times, but a moment, as you said, where at one point you didn't think you would make your return, but you did it. Yeah.
It was. Yeah, you don't think it's going to happen until the very moment that it does. And I was really pleased and grateful that I could make it back onto that pitch. And you do appreciate those minutes a lot more, having had them taken away, and not being able to play. You definitely don't realise what a luxury it is to be able to play football until you physically can't as much as you want to. So although it wasn't a great game at all, but it was just nice for me to have that sort of landmark and say, yeah, I did it, even if it was only for a few minutes. Just relief. That's what I feel. I just felt relief. A good day.
Yeah, and it was good reception you had, and I think this is a period now. I think Kieran was starting doing the PA. I think. And he's done a fantastic job this season. A big shout out to Kieran, of course, doing all the media and stuff. But now he's the PA man, and I think he gives the big one for players making their return or scoring goals. And can you remember much from the game? What you had to do in it? Once again, we covered it. Did you have to take a corner at one stage? Which was
my corner wasn't very good actually. Really wasn't very good. Because I wasn't expecting to bloody take a corner. I don't think I'd taken a corner since I'd been back. And Laf just went to me, oh yeah, you do it. I'm like, well, okay, that's fine. I'm not really bothered about how this turns out, to be honest. I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah, pretty well. Because wasn't it? Was it a season before? Season when sadly you got that injury. I think was it you and Laf practicing corners. You're like going to be the next, basically corner takers.
Yeah. I used to practice them all the time, but it hadn't been a focus at all because whoever's been taking them, balls, whether it's balls or whoever it's been, have done a good job. So I didn't see it as a priority in my return to be back taking corners. Whether that will be in the future, I'm not sure. But it was unexpected. But I was a very poor corner, and my family ribbed me actually because as I don't know whether I said this on the pod before. I must have mentioned it. But there was one game I was playing for England. I think it must have been 16s or 17s, and we're in Slovenia. And I take this corner, and it is possibly the worst corner you've ever seen in your life. Like it hardly reaches the box. I don't know what happened. Obviously my brothers clipped it up, and honestly, the amount of abuse I get for this corner, I have to remind them. I'm like, hang on, have any of you captained your country? No, you haven't. Can we all just sit back down a little bit? But the amount of abuse I get for that corner forever, I think, ongoing in my life. Maybe I need to see someone about it. I don't know.
Yeah. But to be fair, I think anybody who has to take a corner, you've got to beat like the first player. It's got to go over the first player.
It's a must do. And even when you watch it on TV or whether you're at a game or whatever, if someone doesn't beat the first man, it's just like why what are you doing? Yeah, it has to be done. So it wasn't a good one, and I acknowledged that. But at that time, I was like, yeah, that's not great, but I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah,
we were 3-0 up.
we were. Yeah, job's done. Happy days. But
But
like,
yeah, I know I have to improve.
yeah. Although I'm putting it out here now, I'm sorry to say, I think it's been not too bad, but I think set pieces this year has not been great from us. We haven't had like a bullet header this season really,
No.
that I can remember, like a ball coming in and boom. There's been a few good set pieces which have led to goals because they've failed to somebody, but there's not been that really lovely like whipped in corner and then like Megan Waring doing that bullet header or something. We haven't really seen many of those, so that's one thing to improve on next season.
Yeah, I think it's the consistency of either the delivery or the runs into the box. When one is good, the other doesn't seem to be there. And equally the same way around, it hasn't really coincided when the run's been there and it's been exactly where it's needed to be, or perhaps when it has been okay, the connection we've had, like Meg's had a few headers which should really be on target and haven't been. And there's been a few others, but yeah, I agree. That's an area that it's an area where if you're clinical there, so many goals can come from it. So many goals. So definite area of improvement. I'd agree with that.
To be fair, there's been a few times you said it. Like I think Meg's had one where it's hit the crossbar, or Tash probably has done a header and it's hit the post or whatever. So it's just fine margins and all that, and just luck of the green, but just something to maybe improve on next season. Next 3 games to end March. A 3-0 home win over London Bees, so it makes it 5 wins in a row, clean sheets in a row as well. Kieran McKenna watched on from this game as well, so he saw, I think, Sarah Carrera and Megan Waring do the handshake celebration. I think Freya scored twice in this game as well, so Freya was scoring the goals once again. And let's mention Freya now, Blue, as we haven't really had a chance yet. We mentioned she made her debut back against QPR, but she went on to score goals, get assists, and really make a name for herself. And of course, she went on to make her senior debut for Arsenal as well in the WSL. So, cameo appearances, but she really did make a statement playing for us, didn't she?
She did really well, really well. And I hope that sort of in the future she continues to do well. She's almost one of those footballers you watch and they're elegant. I don't know whether it's because she's got really long limbs. I think that probably helps. But yeah, really good on the ball. Pace-wise, ridiculous. And it's pretty clinical too. So yeah, I'm pleased that she came and sort of had the loan move with us, and I think she did really well. And I hope it helps her in the future. I hope the experience. I think it's really useful for those sort of young players to come away from academy football and see football, whether it's in Tier 3 or. I think Tier 3 is a pretty good league to have that experience, and it's definitely benefited her. She also made a really good appearance on the pod as well. So yeah, big up for her. It was a good performance on the pod.
Very good performance. Was it you quoted about her legs, like when you your first impressions? Good legs.
I can't. Long legs, probably.
Long legs. Yeah.
She has got really long legs.
Yeah, and to be fair, some of her goals, I think I got really one good picture of her, like really stretching and a good touch with the ball, and she may have gone on to score from that moment. So, but yeah, really good performances from Freya, and best of luck to whatever the future holds with her. You never know; she could come back. You never know.
You never know.
I'll put a big pedestal now. Like, we may not get her back, but we'll see. But yeah, good old Freya. Then. 3-0 win against London Bees, then a 4-1 win against Crawley Wasps. And I'm just putting out there on my notes, I just went another goal for Bonnie. She scored again. I think it was from a penalty, but she scored again. It was just another, just a win. Although the clean sheet record was gone. Crawley Wasps get relegated, but they stopped our clean sheet record there.
Yeah, I remember the defenders. I don't know if Sarah's pretty chilled, but the defenders were really upset about losing their clean sheet. Yeah. Really upset. They were happy that. I mean, how many games is that? That was a lot of games. I remember mentioning it after the game. I got mentioned in the chat. But yeah, clean sheet was. Although we'd won that many games in a row and won a really good run, we were all really disappointed about the clean sheet, especially to Crawley. But yeah, again, four goals. It's decent for the goal difference and move on. At that point in the season, we're not really that bothered about performances. We know that we have to perform well and play well, but ultimately it's the score. If you can if you can grind out a result, that's the most important thing, to get 3 points, because that's all we cared about.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to actually mention a player now, actually, that we haven't mentioned. We've literally recorded for an hour. We haven't really spoke about EK much. And she scored in this game. And of course, she's, captain the side like Bonnie and like yourself. And, she's been fantastic. She was on the pod, a few weeks back reviewing her season. And it's probably been her best season to date. But sometimes I think she goes under the radar. Maybe not, because she's part of that. That she's the face of Ipswich Town with her, with her fandom and stuff. But there's just times where some of her performances go under the radar because maybe someone else has scored 2 goals or whatever. But she's pretty consistent most weeks.
I think that's the kind of role she's moved into, though, as being a defensive mid. You don't get all the praises and plaudits at all. Similarly with Kyra and Bonnie, they keep the team ticking, but you don't really notice they're there, and it's almost a good performance when you don't notice they're there, because they've done their job well. Everyone else sort of gets the it's normally the attackers that get the plaudits or whatever. But yeah, EK very confident, composed in possession, keeps the ball moving, spreads it nicely. Has had a great season, and I know she wants to add more goals and assists to a game, but actually I think even without that, what she's provided this season in terms of passing, spreading the ball, dealing with the ball under pressure has been really, really good. And for sure, like we said, the best season she's had at Ipswich.
Yeah, definitely. And Kyra, of course, gets a massive shout out because another good season. Last year she was fantastic. This year she had that injury, she had to bounce back, and she's like the Lewis game. She had an unbelievable game in that game back in January, and I think going on from that, she got better and better throughout the rest of the few months, and she's been fantastic. Just once again, another player who needs to score that one first goal, which is going to be an amazing day. It can just be a scrappy goal, but hopefully it will be next season. So Cora, big shout out to her. Then to finish off March, just a solid 1-0 win against Gillingham, professional win. This was Joe's 100th game in charge as well, so a landmark moment for him. But nice little setup at Chatham Town as well, and just a solid win to end March.
Yeah, it was a nice setup. But yeah, like you said, professional. That's how I describe the game. I think they had a few threats, but I mean, this game we dominated, and perhaps should have scored a few more to make it a bit more comfortable. But as we do, we like to keep it a little bit tight, keep fans on their toes, keep us on our toes. But I remember saying that finishing the game, and Joe sent in the game, we've got three games to go. Let's put ourselves in the best position possible. 3 games, hopefully 3 wins. And yeah, I think at that point we still thought we were going to play Oxford next, which ultimately got moved. But we thought it was a good, solid win to then build up to that Oxford game at that point in time.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, the Oxford game got rearranged, but we had 3 games in April/May. We had MK, of course, who we beat 2-0. A stadium game at Stadium MK, so it was a good experience for the players and the staff, everyone involved, the crowd as well. We haven't actually mentioned the crowd, which, although we have a lot on the podcast, we always praise you, ladies and gentlemen. We always do, because you've been incredible. And I think it was actually, once at the Watford game, we mentioned the away game, where we felt there was that shift of wow, this crowd is really helping the team. Or, they're always the 12th player, aren't they? But, I think the Watford game, but then especially this game, to think we are an away team and we're the loudest part of the crowd.
Yeah, we were the loudest, and there were inflatables there as well.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was a thing. I'm sorry to say, but I didn't know that was a thing. So yeah, I found out that was a thing. And then, oh God, we outshouted them. It didn't feel like a home game because you're in a very strange, different stadium. But we definitely outnumbered them for sure, which is great to see. All in all, it was a pretty non-game, I'd say. It wasn't that enjoyable to watch, but they all can't be like that. But again, 3 points, and yeah, a good experience to play in Stadium MK. I'd never been there before.
Yeah. And of course, big shout out to the supporters group because, of course, that was officially launched, the official Ipswich Town Women supporters group who do some great stuff. Big shout out to Matt Macon, Ian, and everyone involved. They do some great stuff, and I'm sure they're going to work even more harder next season alongside Kieran and everyone else involved in the club to improve the fan experience, everything like that. So yeah, look forward to that next season. So 2 more games, Blue. We'll sort of move on for Cheltenham because it was an 8-0 win. Goals, loads of goals, which was great for the goal difference because I think we knew we needed to improve on our goal difference, and which of course will lead into the final game of the season. And Watford won their game, and we did win our game as well. We did what we had to do, finally beating Oxford actually 1-0. But then we found out, of course, well, we knew Watford were winning anyway, but yeah, goal difference settled it in the end. Yeah, we spoke about it, but
yeah, it's still crazy. People come up to me and that don't say follow us that closely, and like, oh, how did you get on? And every time I'm like, I just breathe in. I'm like, we came second on goal difference. Yeah. It's just one of those. It's incredibly painful, but yeah, it was good to beat Oxford though. Really good to beat Oxford. I mean, in my head, and I think in a lot of our team's heads, Oxford were the ones to win. It was either going to be us or Oxford. We saw them as the main one, but they, really sort of fell off. I suppose they had us and Watford to play and didn't win either game, and that ultimately defined their season. So they're probably in a similar position to us, thinking what could have been. But obviously Watford went on and played in the playoff final and thankfully won that game. So yeah, I was pleased to see that they went up because can you imagine them coming back down? Oh, no, thank you.
No, yeah, we'll have this game once again of like, yeah, okay. Of course, thankfully this year, if we, you win, or next season, 2023, 24,
yeah,
that's always, you have to say, they're such a long names, aren't they? 2023, 24. Of course, if you win the league, you go up, which is fantastic. But yeah, congratulations to Watford going up. But yeah, like looking back, Blue, we scored 48 goals and conceded only 11. We had the best sort of in terms of, because Sarah won the Golden Glove and everything, but just think, we just scored a few more goals. Once again, hindsight and looking back, there's certain games like, the 2 defeats at the start of the season was, where we've really had to bounce back from that. And we did. And I'll have to admit at one stage, I think probably the Watford game when we drew, when they equalised, I thought, the season's done. I'll put my hand up and go, if we do it, then this team is incredible, and they did incredible things going on that amazing run. But I will admit, I was like, I don't know, this is going to be a tough one. But yeah, just unbelievable job the team done in the end. But yeah, Blue, as ever I do on loads of podcasts, how would you sum up the season in a few words? Take it away.
It's difficult, isn't it? I think my first one was surprising. I think the season has been full of moments that probably at the start of the season, even before the first game kicked off, that I didn't think would happen at all. Obviously, the first 2 games, and then being sort of in January and thinking, we haven't got a chance here. We could finish 4th or 5th. That being a genuine thought. And then sort of stopping that thought and being like, no, you know what, there's still games to play. We've still got plenty of games to play. Anything can happen. And then, winning those final few games, going on that massive run, which against all odds, really. And then it coming to that final day and bloody Watford winning it. Surprising. I'd probably say resilient or resilience as well. I think we've had a lot of things not go our way this season, whether that be, I don't know, whether it's the group or whether it's injuries or last minute equaliser. I mean, every football team has luck, and you can be unlucky or lucky or whatever, and you get your fair share, whatever it is. But I think it's always the reaction from that luck or unluckiness to bounce back and that resilience to do so. I think we showed quite a bit of that this season. So I'd probably say that as well. And then maybe to be negative, disappointing, we didn't go up. And ultimately that is the goal. So you kind of have to look at it, and although we've been on an amazing run and we take positives, and we have taken a lot of positives from this season, as an overall we haven't achieved what we wanted to. So we need to take these positives but also balance it with, right, okay, well, we haven't achieved it, why, and what are we going to do next season to make sure this doesn't happen again. So yeah, but I think it's good to have a balanced approach and not just write off the season completely, but also not say, oh, well, we did really well in the final few games, because actually there's still improvements to be made. Yeah, but yeah, I'd be interested to hear your words or word.
It was rubbish. No, I'm joking. It was rubbish for the first 2 games. I have to admit, I was like, oh god, this is gonna be a long season. Just being that negative Nancy at the start of the season.
Yeah,
but like deep down, deep down, I knew that this was we're gonna turn this around, because we still had the players, we still had the staff to turn it around. And my first word is progress, because okay, we haven't gone up, but from where we were last season, where we had nothing to play for, did we? It was the final few games. This year, it went down to the final day, which from when we drew against Watford, as I said, like a late equaliser, I thought, okay, that was it. That was it. We're now just, I wouldn't say we're going to play dead rubbers, but we're just going to be chasing Watford, and we were chasing them until that final day. Oxford was still playing part of it as well, but progress made. Even just on and off the pitch in terms of the fans as well. The crowd. I think there's more improvement of getting better numbers, of course. I think everybody wants to improve that all the time. But progress. But the other word, I'm taking your word, disappointing, because the ideal, I'm sure the goal this season for Joe and all the players, everybody, was to go up. We knew last year was a fantastic achievement from that, unbelievable run we went on. Our first ever season in Tier 3, those young players, to go on that run was amazing. And just, we missed out in the end because of different results, and Southampton went up, and then this year progress was made. I'm excited for the future, because Joe, I'm sure, has got that ambition of going once again. We go again, as we always say. As EK said, we go again. A season of progress is what I'm calling it. And I think it's hopefully another season where we can really look forward to. And definitely now, with once again, it's the World Cup year, which I'm reminded of now. It is the World Cup year. There is football, Women's World Cup in Australia / New Zealand. So another year of the game growing. We've seen, record crowds, even in WSL, their teams selling out, grounds, more even just young kids getting involved and stuff like that, which is just incredible. I'm going on a bit of a tangent here. Blue, help me out.
I can't remember the exact figure that the WSL attendances have gone up, but it's significant, which I think was probably a key goal of having the Euros hosted in England, and ultimately the success that caused. But even at the FA Cup final, I was at the FA Cup final the other day, which it wasn't that good of a game, but finals rarely are, really, aren't they? And my sister Drew, she's sat there in her United t-shirt with Toon on the back, well up for it. My brother's a Chelsea fan, so he was wearing a Chelsea shirt. We were sat in the United section, actually, and she wasn't very happy because obviously United did lose the game, but the attendance there broke some sort of record. I think it was the highest attendance at a domestic women's game ever, or whatever. So the numbers are there. And even the ticket prices for that event, sometimes you find that ticket prices, they lower them so much that it's like, well, you're basically giving them away. But I've definitely seen an increase in women's tickets prices, which I'm glad to see, because it almost means that they're no longer valuing the game at a lower value. So that was a good experience. But I'm looking forward to the World Cup. Obviously, England without a few key names. So maybe my confidence in them winning it, maybe faltering slightly since Leah Williamson's been out. but I still see them doing well. But I don't know. Something tells me Australia might have a good tournament. It been a home tournament, whatever. They're a pretty strong team, but we will see. Hopefully, England. Fingers crossed, England have another one.
Yeah, another one, because that unbelievable last year winning the Euros and that momentum going on, and like just even my niece, like she's been going to her first like women's games this year, town women's games, and she just loves it. She loves playing football now, and I just see that's another thing we always say, we've spoken about on the podcast so many times, like players afterwards having to sign so many different pictures, hands and stuff, not just girls but boys as well, and just anybody of all ages just there watching the game. So big shout out to you again. But Blue, I want to give a shout out to some of maybe the staff members that maybe don't get mentioned, who are behind the scenes. Kieran Stanley, who's been on the podcast before, the quiz master. A shout out to him for doing all the social media and all the other bits and bobs that you may not know he does. There's also, of course, Jack Mitchell, who does some great work. I don't know, he's probably listened to this, so big shout out to you, Jack. You do some great stuff. You've got Nicola as well, who does. If you get to a game early, you see her warming up the players, doing all the stretches and stuff. And there's some other great people as well, Blue, I'm sure you want to give a shout out to. Of course, Charlie Baxter, who left town in February, maybe, or Billericay game was his last game as a coach. But yeah, he was of course part of this team this year as well. But anybody else you want to give a shout out to? There's physios as well. The physios.
You're putting me on the spot here.
Sorry.
I don't want to forget anyone. Regan, obviously.
Yeah, Regan.
He comes home and away. He's always well up for it. Who else have we got? Oh. Sophie and Mia, the physios who have come in, and hopefully will be with us next season. I feel like we're missing someone now.
Especially, of course, Maddie Reader.
Maddie Reader, of course, yes.
Great stuff. And of course, her dad, Neil the Diamond, for their great support as well. And, give shout out to Connor Bennett as well from BBC Suffolk. He comes and does interviews, and he's a big supporter as well. And just everyone who just goes to the games, and you listeners out there, you watchers out there, thanks for tuning in to the podcast all year. Well, it'll be a bit stupid if me and Blue just did this podcast, not knowing if anybody's listened to us. But the numbers have been pretty good this year. So big shout out to you. Of course, big shout out to Mark Kennedy at John Fowler Solicitors for sponsoring the podcast this year, making history really, because we've never had a sponsor for this podcast. So big shout out to you, Michael and co. But yeah, big thank you to you two as well, Blue, for being my co-host, for just about keeping up with me doing this, making sure I keep in line, everything like that. But no, it's been a great year, Blue, and to even just, okay, you haven't been able to play as much as you probably hoping to, but it's been a good year doing the podcast. Yeah,
it's been a successful year, although it hasn't been a successful year on the pitch, and probably I would have preferred that, but there has been success in the podcast, and that is still success. So yeah, I've really enjoyed it, and likewise, thanks for all your prep and organisation skills, Ross. I know that sometimes me scheduling guests becomes tricky, but yeah, it's very enjoyable. So big thanks to you. And yeah, I think probably finish it there.
Yeah.
Last podcast of the season. I just want to mirror what Ross said. You supporters are the reason we do this, and a big reason why the girls go out there every Sunday and try and put in performances, whether that's to inspire the next generation or make your Sunday that little bit better. That's a big reason as to why we work so hard to do that. So yeah, thank you for your support this season. I'm sorry we couldn't quite get the end goal, but we'll be doing everything we can to do that next season. So yeah, we'll catch you then. Enjoy your summer, enjoy the World Cup, and we'll speak to you next season.
Bring it on. Bye-bye for now, everybody.